What was daily life like during the Wild West in the USA? You probably know the stories of the Old West from Western films. And it's also quite possible that you think of adventures full of armed characters, courageous indigenous people and dangers that revealed themselves with every step taken. But what was a normal life like in the Old West? The fact is that there were also those moments of doldrums and routine, but they were certainly much more precarious compared to what we experience today. Here we think about situations of lack of hygiene and basic knowledge that are normal for us today. Certainly, it was not easy to live in those times. 1. The lack of hygiene in the Old West. Today it's a bit obvious to think that we need to wash our hands and clean dishes and cutlery after using them. But in the 19th century, not much was known about germs. So hygiene wasn't exactly central to people in the Old West. For starters, there weren't many cleaning products. The pioneers, as the people who expanded the country's early United States borders were called, were already established, but they still didn't know much about disinfectants. Supplies were also scarce, and a family often shared the same plate and cup. This was repeated in bars. Customers could wipe their mouths with the same towel, and they didn't even complain. There were already homemade caustic soda soaps, but they were ineffective and aggressive. 2. Where's the bathroom? If hygiene was precarious, it is clear that other aspects, such as bathrooms, were equally poor. Obviously, there was no plumbing. But in the Old West, there were latrines and chamber pots, which were small ceramic bowls placed next to the bed for peeing in the case of an emergency. Latrines were built outside the houses, in small wooden huts with 2 holes, one for adults and one for children. In the door, a semicircle opening had the function of illuminating the place in the dark and providing some ventilation. Everywhere in the Old West had latrines, which certainly didn't smell good, since there was no sewage and they were used by everyone. And worse, several people used this place for other purposes, such as drinking, reading, and even hiding weapons. 3. And the toilet paper? Well, toilet paper wasn't exactly a thing in the Old West. In fact, he was raised in New York in the 1850s, so he certainly hadn't arrived among the pioneers before then. Even though this utensil didn't exist, people found a way to clean themselves. The publication Farmer's Almanac, for example, became the companion in the bathroom of many pioneer families since its inception in 1792. People hung the book on a nail to read while relieving themselves. And after reading it, they would tear off a sheet of paper to clean themselves. But other objects were used by the pioneers for this function, such as plants, random papers, ears of corn, and even rags that were later reused. 4. Rotten teeth. If everything was very precarious at that time, there is no doubt that teeth were not exactly a priority. Still, there was some version of toothpaste and even dentists, but oral health care was still very rudimentary. It was common for people to get nasty tooth infections and suffer unwanted side effects during procedures. There was also no anesthesia, and eventually dentists used opium to relieve patients of pain, which could kill them. In 1886, an outlaw named Clay Allison had such a bad experience at the dentist that he decided to take revenge. He simply grabbed the doctor and ripped out one of his molars because of what he had been through. When he died a year later, the bandit's tombstone read, "He never killed a man who didn't need to be killed." Maybe he was right. Thank you for watching another video from our trivia channel. If you liked this content and want to continue discovering more interesting and surprising facts, don't forget to like and share with your friends. And of course, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any news.